in this headline for this hour on VTV News. Vietnamese Prime Minister holds talks with Russian President. And Vietnam maintains advantages in rice exports. Later in the world news, Russia surpasses Japan to become world's fourth largest economy.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam, VTV News starts right now.
Good afternoon. It's currently 3 p.m. local time and you're watching VTV News. I'm Phie bringing you the latest updates. Now, Vietnamese Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính held talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin on the sidelines of the expanded BRICS summit in Kazan, Russia on Thursday evening local time. The two leaders agreed on the need for closer coordination to effectively advance in areas such as economy, trade, investment, and tourism, while expanding into new fields such as renewable energy and infrastructure. Both sides expressed a desire to promote additional energy projects to meet their country's development needs, aligned with current trends in green growth and sustainable development. In the near future, they agreed to focus on enhancing cooperation in technology transfer, human resource training, and developing a team of experts for Vietnam. Continuing with the 8th session on Friday morning, the National Assembly held a plenary session to discuss the draft law on urban and rural planning. More to follow.
Deputies noted that to address the current limitations in urban development, it is essential to clearly define the urban structure and specify the agency responsible for planning.
I believe that planning must take the lead, serving as a guiding framework for the development of the urban system rather than merely documenting the spontaneous and relatively fragmented, chaotic state of urban development as it is now. Therefore, this law needs to include clear definitions of urban areas, inner cities, suburban areas, and rural areas.
It is necessary to establish regulations that specify the leading agency in the planning tasks. Area zoning and detailed planning for land use rights auction or investor selection should be assigned by the provincial and district people's committees. This is a very complex issue that requires consistency, so I recommend researching ways to ensure unity across the entire system to avoid overlapping responsibilities and the passing of accountability.
The National Assembly deputies also suggested considering the regulation on seeking opinions from state management agencies, organizations, experts, and local communities regarding urban and rural planning.
Zoning plans and detailed plans are specific steps that refine the general planning, which already involves extensive public consultation and evaluation for approval. Therefore, it is necessary to establish provisions that reduce the procedures for consultation so as not to prolong the approval process and delay the implementation of projects.
The plenary session is expected to continue with the draft law on notarization amended.
Rice prices worldwide are declining, while Vietnam's rice price has adjusted downward in line with this global trend. It remains higher than that of other exporting countries. Experts believe that the current price strikes a balance between the interests of farmers and exporting companies.
Although the rice type is the same, 5% broken, experts believe that Vietnam's rice is superior in taste and better suited to consumer preferences compared to competitors. From now until the end of the year, demand is expected to increase from Vietnam's traditional customers, such as China, Indonesia, the Philippines, and Singapore.
China imports rice in the last quarter, and there is a strong demand for 5% broken rice and regular rice for processing. Companies that still have stock should take advantage of the situation and explore niches in this market. We should also continue to focus on South Korea, Japan, the EU, and the US.
According to rice exporters, in addition to normal white rice, high-end rice products such as fragrant rice, sticky rice, and ST25 rice will not be affected by India's reopening of rice exports. This is due to demand for Vietnamese rice in this segment, continuing to remain strong in markets like Japan, Europe, and South Korea.
In Vietnam, premium rice products are areas where businesses are expanding and developing. Therefore, I believe there will not be significant effects on these companies.
These positive signals suggest that the goal of exporting 8 million tons of rice this year is achievable. The Ministry of Industry and Trade also advises businesses to monitor market conditions closely and adjust their export policies proactively, as global rice prices are expected to experience unpredictable fluctuations.
Now, by the end of September, Vietnam's rice exports reached 6.9 million tons, a 23% increase compared to the same period last year. To strengthen competitiveness with major exporters like India, Vietnamese rice export enterprises must adjust strategies to maintain their market position. Notably, in October, a Vietnamese rice brand was successfully launched in Japan, marking it as the second Vietnamese rice brand to enter this high-standard market. To import Vietnamese rice into Japan, products must comply with stringent regulations, including pesticide residue limits across 624 criteria, verified through 3 inspection stages. However, after 2 successful importations, the entry process for rice products into the Japanese market became easier, with shortened procedure times. Vietnamese rice exports to Japan are expected to rise further in the coming months. Vietnam's rubber industry is moving towards greening, a production process that prevents deforestation and forest degradation. By the end of this year, the European Union will ban the import of rubber and rubber products using processes that cause such environmental harm.
Nearly 2,000 hectares of rubber have been updated by Phú Riềng farm with a new version of the National Forest Certification.
Issues related to water, environment, and roads have been very favorable. Environmental criteria is the top priority for sustainable forests.
According to the Vietnam Rubber Group, by 2025, it aims to have 40% to 45% of its area and planted forests certified for sustainable forest management, and 75% to 80% of latex processing factories certified for chain of custody. This will provide the basis for the wood material supply industry to meet export standards.
We guarantee the origin of the wood, from raw wood to purchased materials. They all have to meet the requirements of the importing country.
In Vietnam, there are currently more than 200,000 hectares of rubber, accounting for 22% of the area certified for sustainable forest management, concentrated in the Vietnam Rubber Group.
Sustainable development and green growth are the only way. We have established our Sustainable Development Steering Committee and deployed the establishment of Sustainable Development Steering Committees of member units to implement this strategy.
By 2050, Vietnam aims to have 100% of its rubber areas certified for sustainable forest management. This certification will serve as the foundation for all factories producing latex, wood, and rubber products. Vietnam also seeks to implement production chain of custody certification, contributing to the sustainable green development of the rubber industry.
Autoclave E-rated concrete is currently favored by many countries worldwide. Its characteristics such as lighter weight, better sound insulation, heat insulation, and fire resistant, making it superior to traditional construction materials. In Vietnam, this material is recently considered a green material and is being adopted by many investors and contractors in construction projects.
Thanks to autoclave aerated concrete, this project's construction volume was completed in just over a month. Compared to traditional construction materials, this replacement not only reduces construction time, but also cuts costs and saves labor resources.
Technological materials are more expensive than traditional ones. However, they help us save a lot of time in construction, and time is money.
In the mountainous provinces of northern Vietnam, people are replacing traditional building materials with this new material. At the resettlement project for the people of New Village, Bảo Yên District, Lào Cai Province, all houses will have autoclave aerated concrete panels. instead of traditional brick walls.
Using traditional materials increases mass and weight. In contrast, autoclaved aerated concrete offers larger dimensions, enabling rapid assembly when modules are carefully planned for each part of the house. Its lightweight nature simplifies transportation. These advantages make structural calculations easier, speeding up construction while enhancing safety and efficiency.
As for the foundation work, we have maintained steady progress, completing 28 out of 40 foundations so far. Currently, 240 workers are engaged on site for the roof structure construction. We will then proceed with roofing, painting, tiling, and installing electrical and water systems, requiring us to increase the workforce by an additional 140 to 200 people.
Thanks to the new materials, a house can be completed in just 1.5 days. After the walls are built, follow-up tasks like painting and roofing can start right away. These faster workflows plays a key role in keeping the new village resettlement project on track.
Before we move on to other important news, let's take a look at the foreign exchange rate. Coming up next on VTV News, Typhoon Trami to reach level 15 gusts in East Asia. And efforts underway for Alzai to be recognized as cultural heritage of humanity. Welcome back to VTV News. After entering the East Sea, Typhoon Trami is showing signs of strengthening, reaching level 10 intensity. Over the next 24 hours, the storm is forecast to move westward at approximately 20 kilometers per hour. The typhoon is expected to peak in intensity by Saturday, with sustained winds at level 12 and gusts up to level 15, equivalent to wind speeds of 183 kilometers per hour. Afterward, it is predicted to weaken as it approaches the coastal waters of central Vietnam. Notably, the storm may change direction, veering southward and reversing course. Vessels operating in this dangerous zone, especially near the Paracel Islands, risk encountering severe winds and high waves. Hanoi recently hosted the International Food Control Conference 2024, drawing around 500 participants, including leaders from the Ministry of Health, representatives from government agencies, international organizations based in Vietnam, and experts from around the world. Organized by the National Institute for Food Control under the Ministry of Health, the conference featured a plenary session and 6 scientific sessions, with the theme Risk Assessment to Support Risk-Based Food Safety Control. The conference covered topics such as food safety risk assessment, nutrients and food additives, toxins and contaminants in food, microorganisms in food and foodborne disease, dietary supplements, and food technology and quality control. Central Highlands provinces are home to diverse ethnic communities. In recent years, many security and order models have been established thanks to effective communications and mobilization efforts by localities. These models contribute significantly to ensuring security and supporting local socio-economic development. Join us in a story in a remote commune of Đắk Lắk province.
11 members of the Ia Krung village security team in Air Sun Commune, Krongbuk district in Đắk Lắk province take turns patrolling local coffee fields in preparation for the harvest season.
During harvest time, agricultural products were also stolen. Ever since the patrol team started their duties, the village has seen no crimes.
Drug-related crimes and alcohol-addicted youth causing public disturbances and rampant theft once plagued the village. To combat this worrying trend, local authorities established the Ia Krung village security team in 2018.
This team has provided significant assistance to the local police force. They serve as a crucial link between the community and the local police. The members of the team are young, energetic, and united. They have helped authorities solve many cases.
The Krung village security team also regularly monitors the living conditions of local households. They have made recommendations to higher authorities, resulting in the construction of new homes for poor families.
The celebrity Millennium cruise ship of the U.S. Royal Caribbean Cruise Line docked at Chiang Mai Port this morning, carrying over 2,000 passengers and nearly 1,000 crew members. So far this year, Thừa Thiên Huế province has welcomed 41 cruise ships at this port, hosting over 90,000 passengers and crew members. For the next year, 42 cruise ships have already registered to dock at Chiang Mai Port, expected to bring nearly 80,000 visitors and crew to Hue and other central provinces of Vietnam. To mark this occasion, the province inaugurated the Chiang Mai Port Tourism Information and Support Center. This center offers passengers tourism service information and essential advice to ensure a pleasant experience. It also showcases and promotes Hue's signature products, highlighting the city's culture and image. The Hà Giang Buckwheat Flower Festival is one of the province's most attractive cultural events. This annual celebration is eagerly anticipated every late autumn and early winter, the time when buckwheat flowers bloom and are the most beautiful on the Đồng Văn Stone Plateau. More on this in the following story.
Every year around September, Hờ Mỹ Yu's family in Cang Tang village, Lũng Cú commune, Đồng Văn district, busy themselves preparing land for sowing buckwheat flowers. This year, his family has dedicated an entire hill, over 2,000 square meters, to growing flowers.
My family grows buckwheat flowers to attract tourists and earn extra income.
October marks the end of autumn and the beginning of winter, bringing a crisp chill to the air. This season also heralds the blooming of buckwheat flowers, which shimmer across the rocky plateau.
This is my first time in Vietnam and I chose to visit Hà Giang. I learned about this place years ago on the internet and today I feel very happy.
In the first 9 months of 2024, Hà Giang province welcomed nearly 2.5 million tourists, up 0.5% year-on-year, and reaching a 77.1% of the annual target. It is expected that in the fourth quarter of this year, the number of tourists will increase sharply.
We have directed travel companies to continue organizing events and improving service quality. Traditional cultural festivals need to be promoted.
Beyond its majestic natural scenery, Hà Giang captivates tourists with its unique traditional ethnic cultures that are still preserved and promoted today. This cultural richness has contributed to Hà Giang's recognition as Asia's leading cultural destination in 2024.
The áo dài is long been regarded as a symbol of Vietnamese culture and an emblem of Vietnamese women, both domestically and internationally. In August, the knowledge of tailoring and wearing Huế áo dài was officially recognized as a national intangible cultural heritage. This recognition is good news, not only for Huế, but also for áo dài enthusiasts nationwide. It marks a significant milestone in the journeys towards the áo dài recognition as a global heritage.
The technical steps of cutting and sewing are meticulously attended to by artisans and áo dài tailors in Huế. For them, the áo dài is an artistic masterpiece that embodies Vietnam's cultural identity.
Áo dài becoming a national heritage would be a source of joy and pride for us. I hope there will be new policies to help áo dài flourish.
After being included in the list of national heritage, efforts have been made for áo dài to be recognized on UNESCO's representative list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity. However, the process of building a dossier for UNESCO submission requires a specific roadmap that complies with strict procedures. The name of the heritage initially submitted also changed multiple times before it was finalized as knowledge of tailoring and wearing Phie áo dài.
The naming and the content of the dossier must align with the nature of the subject, which is áo dài, while being closely connected to the community.
It's good news that the Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism has recognized Phie áo dài as a national cultural heritage. This is the fourth intangible cultural heritage of Phie that's made it to the list. The state's official recognition is a great motivation for Phie.
The recognition of knowledge of tailoring and wearing Phie áo dài as a national intangible cultural heritage lays a crucial foundation for this traditional costume to be acknowledged as a global heritage in the future.
Coming up next on VTV News. Russia surpasses Japan to become world's fourth largest economy. And according to UN, climate set to warm by 3.1 degrees Celsius without greater action. Welcome back to VTV News. According to the International Monetary Fund or IMF report on the world's GDP, Russia's GDP this year will count for 3.55% of the global figure in terms of purchasing power parity. This means that Russia has surpassed Japan to become the world's fourth largest economy behind China, the US, and India. Russia's GDP growth this year is forecast as 3.6%, up 0.4% from the July estimate. According to this forecast, by 2029, the Russian economy will maintain its fourth position with no risk of losing its ranking. Last week, the World Bank raised its GDP growth forecast for Russia for the third time this year, up nearly 0.2%. Despite Western sanctions, the Russian economy is proving to be stable and maintains a good growth rate. The International Monetary Fund, or IMF, has a positive outlook for the Asia-Pacific region's economy. According to the IMF's report, the region's economy rebounded more strongly than previously forecast in the first 6 months of this year. Excluding Japan, the entire region's growth is projected to average 4.6% this year and 4.4% in 2025, continuing to contribute 60% to global economic growth. China's economy is forecast to grow 4.8%, slightly lower than the 5% projected in July. Most countries in the region have successfully controlled inflation, while many emerging economies have capitalized on opportunities to boost exports and growth.
Vietnam has done better both in terms.
On Thursday, the Turkish government raised the threat level to orange at all domestic airports. This measure aims to prevent potential attacks following Wednesday's terrorist incident in Ankara. As a result, security personnel will thoroughly check all vehicles and passengers entering airports. Turkey remains in shock after the attack on Wednesday, targeting the aviation industry group headquarters near the capital, which killed at least 5 people and injured 22 people. Both assailants were killed. So far, no organization has claimed responsibility for the attack. Current climate policies will result in global warming of more than 3 degrees Celsius by the end of the century, according to the United Nations report released on Thursday, more than twice the increase agreed upon nearly a decade ago. More in the following story.
The annual emissions gap report, which takes stock of countries' promises to tackle climate change compared to necessary actions, finds that the world faces as much as 3.1 degrees Celsius of warming above pre-industrial levels by 2100 if governments do not take greater action to slash planet-warming emissions.
Governments have agreed to align these plans with 1.5 degrees. That means they must drive down all greenhouse gases emissions and cover the whole economy, pushing progress in every sector. And they must wean us off our fossil fuel addiction showing how governments will phase them out fast and fairly, and contributing to global goals to accelerate renewables rollout and halt the reverse deforestation. The largest economies, the G20 members, responsible for around 80% of all emissions, must lead.
The world has currently warmed by about 1.3 degrees Celsius. Nations will gather next month at the annual United Nations Climate Summit COP29 in Azerbaijan, where they will work to build on an agreement made last year to transition away from fossil fuels.
If we look at the progress towards 2030 targets, especially of the G20 member states that we focus on because collectively they account for nearly 80% of global greenhouse gas emissions, they have not made a lot of progress towards their current climate targets for 2030, and those targets in addition are not strong enough to get us anywhere close to where we need to be by 2030.
Negotiations in Baku will help inform each country's updated emissions-cutting strategy, known as a nationally determined contribution, which are due in February 2025.
And up next is the weather forecast. And that's all for VTV News. To rewatch our program, you can download VTVgo from App Store or Google Play, or visit our YouTube channel, VTV4Go. Thank you for watching, and goodbye for now.